Dominic, thank you very much indeed. Well, joining me now here in Westminster is the author and playwright and Obama supporter Bonnie Greer, and live in Washington is Cliff May. He's the president of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, which focuses on national security. And Cliff May, how did you score last night's debate?
Well, if we were scoring just on points, I suppose Obama was the more aggressive and probably comes out ahead. I think we have to be careful here. Who won the debate? I can just say that Obama won the debate, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to vote for Obama in the end. There are two different challenges. And I think what you had here were two candidates who had a difficult time. Romney has no real record on foreign policy. Obama has a record, and it's not a terribly successful one. So between the two, they were both trying to do something. Obama was trying to say that Romney was reckless and wrong, and he was trying to get that brand on him. I don't think he necessarily succeeded. I think Romney was trying to say to voters who are undecided in Ohio, you can trust me, I'm okay on this, and now look to my economic policies, which I think you'll believe are sounder than the ones we've had over the past 4 years.
And given that Romney's basic claim was that the Obama foreign policy had been unsuccessful, were you surprised the number of times he said, I agree with the president?
I was not actually surprised. Again, if what you're trying to do is convince an undecided voter that you can be trusted and that you are not in the extreme or wrong, you want to stay fairly close to the president and say, look, there's going to be more consistency than not. I'm not going to try to present a foreign policy that is radically different from the president's. By the way, Obama's policy is not radically different from Bush's on a number of issues. Romney once tried to get that across. I'm not sure he did it persuasively or successfully. So, no, I think he wanted to simply show that he was an acceptable alternative to Obama for those who are dissatisfied with Obama. Keep this in mind, historically, among undecideds, usually the undecideds vote about 2-to-1 for the challenger rather than for the incumbent. Why is that? They are undecided this late in the game because they're dissatisfied with the incumbent, but they're not yet comfortable with the challenger. I think what Romney was doing, this was his strategy, rightly or wrongly, was to say, you can be comfortable with me on foreign policy. Now let's talk about economics, which you care about even more.
Bonnie Greer, that can be, as we're just hearing there from Cliff, I mean, a successful tactic for the challenger to occupy a lot of the space of the incumbent, can't it?
Well, you know, we all know that the incumbent is always a referendum on the incumbent. This is ultimately what it's about. You're either voting for the president or you're voting against the president. People are conservative with a small c. If you're going to change the captain, you have to have a reason to do so. Last night isn't anything I call a debate. It was more like a vigorous discussion in which Governor Romney pretty much agreed with the President of the United States. The governor has no vision, and this is what, if I were undecided, I would be interested in knowing what is the governor's vision of the world. Of course, he doesn't have the credentials or the information that the President of the United States has.
But isn't Barack Obama quite shy about that as well? I mean, there was one whole thing about what is America's role in the world, and they both really ducked it and went on to specifics and indeed domestic economics pretty
I think
quickly.
Partly because we're in the 21st century, as the President tried to point out, and we're in an age of asymmetrical warfare. There is, you know, two guys can actually hold a country at bay with the laptop. So the president is trying to say to the world, the United States actually has to be in a strong place, but it has to be in a different place. We can't go back to the 80s and the 50s where we see Russia as our main enemy. I mean, the governor cleaned that up very quickly, but he did say this. And I think you have to ask yourself, basically, what is his foreign policy? And he doesn't really have one except to say, I agree with the president, but vote for me anyway.
Cliff May, Romney did say that he thought the #1 issue was Iran. But did you really see a lot to choose in practice between the sanctions policy being followed by Obama and what Romney would do?
Not on the basis of what we saw in the debate last night, no. And I think an opportunity was missed by Governor Romney. Even on sanctions, he could have made the point that while the sanctions right now are the toughest we've ever seen, and they are, and while Obama deserves credit for getting Europeans to come along on a lot of them, the fact of the matter was those sanctions were pushed on the president by Congress The president has been reluctant to take them on and has issued a lot of waivers to make them easier than they might otherwise have been. And Romney might have also said, we're going to push the sanctions way further. But again, I think what he was trying to do, and again, we're not talking substance of foreign policy, we're talking politics here. From a political point of view, he was saying, don't worry about me. I'm not going to be Goldwatered. And when I say that, if you remember way back when Lyndon Johnson's campaign made Goldwater seem like he was a dangerous guy who was going to blow up the whole world, and people said, I can't vote for him. I think he had that kind of thing in mind. He knew where Obama was going to focus his attention, and he was not going to let that happen. But I do think that Romney does understand the danger, the danger of Iran. But both candidates on there said, look, we're not going to let Iran, with this regime, get nuclear weapons.
And this is the bottom line. In the first debate, Romney told us, I'm okay, I'm safe. In the third debate, he kept saying that again. We've got that message. People have made the decision, and they're not going to change the captain if the captain doesn't make the change. Absolutely.
Thank you very much indeed.